You got it? Do you have it in your...
Oh, pretty sure I got it.
Yeah. He's like, I got it.
Yeah, we got it. We're good.
He's, yeah. Yeah, we're going to do one for Sunday school. We're going to do a song. We did, and then we didn't, and we did, and we didn't, and it was always kind of tossed up and down. We had a lot of change come through, but, you know, it's good to start with a song. A joyful noise unto the Lord.
What's the first song you want to do tonight?
Huh?
What's the first song, Kevin?
The first song? For the 520. Yeah. All right, if you all would turn to hymn 50. And stand up when you get there. We're going to do verses, 1, 2, and 4. So we'll do 1, 2, and 4. Because Mike's playing by our ear. All right. Hold on a second. You guys there? 50, Chuck. 50. 5-0. There's power in the blood. Stand up when you get there. Let's sing real loud. All right, here we go. Would you be free from your burden of sin? There's power in the blood, power in the blood. Would you or evil the victory win? There's wonderful power in the blood. There is power, power, wonder-working power in the blood of the Lamb. There is power, power, wonder-working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. On 2. Would you be free from your passion and pride? There's power in the blood, power in the blood. Come for a cleansing to Calvary's tide. There's wonderful power in the blood. There is power, power, wonder-working power in the blood of the Lamb. There's power, power, wonder-working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. On the last. Would you do service for Jesus your King? There's power in the blood, power in the blood. Would you live daily his praises to sing? There's wonderful power in the blood. There is power, power, wonder-working power in the blood of the Lamb. There is power, power, wonder-working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. Amen. Now we're going to have some Sunday school lessons.
Yo.
Just let me know when you're going to start the little thing we got playing on the screen.
Okay, I will. We are going to be Matthew chapter 8, verse 1 through 4. We're going to park there. Matthew chapter 8, verses 1 through 4. Welcome to Sunday School. Welcome all you all out on PC land, formerly TV land. Welcome to Florence Baptist Church, Sunday School Hour. We're going to be looking today Matthew chapter 8, verses 1 through 4. We have just finished the Sermon on the Mount after several weeks, and now we are moving forward. A brief introduction. Jesus has just completed the Sermon on the Mount, chapters 5 through 7, and now he has come down off of the mountain. Originally, he had gone up to the top somewhere. I don't know if it was at the pinnacle peak, but up towards the top of the mountain. Jesus has completed the Sermon on the Mount, And now we are going to see Jesus work in his kingdom. He's going to switch right into work mode. And we're going to see what the king of all people is now going to be doing the work. And we're going to observe that. In Matthew chapter 8, we are presented with a series of miracles that Jesus performs. They're healings that only God could do, both then and now. And I'll show you what I mean. We're kind of doing some of this stuff with medicine today, but we're not able to produce the same effect as Christ does. And we'll see that right away. Again, this is work that only God can do. I'm not even sure if, correct me if I'm wrong, if the prophets pulled a lot of this stuff off. They did pull some miracles and stuff like that, but it was known widely in the Jewish world that these are works of God. They didn't expect prophets to be able to do this sort of stuff. So Jesus is now going to go to work. He's putting the boots on. And it is worth mentioning, because of the Bible scholars we have here, it is worth mentioning, you'll see Jesus fulfilling a lot of prophecies now. He's going to actually work the prophecies. And you'll notice down in chapter 17, the book of Isaiah is mentioned. And it's mentioned on purpose because Isaiah is often called the New Testament prophet. If you didn't have Isaiah and Daniel and maybe one other prophet during that time holding up the thread of prophecy all the way to Messiah, you could hardly understand, oh, is this the Messiah or not? But Isaiah contains probably Isaiah and Daniel, probably every prophecy we could expect to see Messiah doing. So I do believe that's why the book of Isaiah is mentioned shortly after what we're looking at. So it's important to know that. Let's jump right into this. The first miracle Jesus is going to, that is recorded for us anyway. The first miracle recorded here, we're going to see Jesus cleansing a leper. He's going to cure a man with leprosy. Let's jump in, chapter 8, verse 1. When he was come down off the mountain, great multitudes followed him. And behold, there came a leper, worshiping him and saying, Lord, if thou wilt, thou can make me clean. And Jesus put forth his hand and touched him, saying, I will that thou be clean. And immediately the leprosy was cleansed. And Jesus said to him, See thou tell no man, but go thy way and show thyself to the priest, and offer the gift that Moses commanded for a testimony unto them. So in those days, there's a whole process involving leprosy and the priest. And I'll give you the chapters for that because it's important to know what's going on here. Jesus doesn't just say, go see the priest for no reason. Remember, Jesus is still under law. Even though he's pulling miracles off, he's still under law. He has to follow law. Let's talk about leprosy for a minute. We've got 4 slides we'll present this morning. And Victor, you feel free to move through those 4 as you need to. We've got 4 slides to give a picture of what leprosy looks like. And you know yourself, you can get on Google and still look at this stuff. Only 5% of the world's population is genetically susceptible to leprosy. And boy, I crossed that like a horse at a race. That can't be true. And doctor after scientists make that claim. 95% of the world is not genetically predisposed to catch this disease, even though it's infectious. But let me add the rest of the story. If the rest of us 95% were living with these folks, the likelihood is very high we're going to get leprosy. So it does something to your body to set you up for it. But if you're in that small 5% that's susceptible, and it's genetically susceptible, it's not that, oh, I have this allergy. No, you're set up. You will definitely get that disease. So of all the people in the world, I mean, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of leper colonies still out there. It's a bacteria, and it takes about 5 years to incubate in the human body. I think humans, as far as I know, is the only one that gets it. About 5 years before it starts expressing itself. And then it slowly decays the body and the mind. And I'll tell you why I say that. Show that one fellow with the white blotches on him if you got it. I think it's leprosy too. It almost looks like a case of melanoma. And I've seen folks around town that have that, and it's not leprosy, but it begins to look like it. And I'm going to show you about this priest checking the guy out thing, because the priest, at this point, once white skin is evident, is commanded to begin checking this out. So they weren't even sure, be this leprosy or just something else. So there's approximately 3 to 5 years after leprosy has already been in your body. It starts expressing itself. All right? Here's the good news. Anyway, it does affect the body, and it's going to impact the mind as well. And because here's the thing. Go ahead and go on to the next slide. That's pretty far advanced. He's probably been healed. And I only say that because you see no open, fresh skin, which the book of Leviticus says. All those thousands of years ago, God already knew how to diagnose this stuff. So if this man were to go to the priest and show himself, he's not showing any fresh skin or red-hot skin. And then they would test him for another round. His hair is black. It's not white. There are very specific signs. How did these priests know that thousands and thousands of years ago? Science just discovered this stuff about 50 years ago. So the Word of God, that's how they knew. That's how they knew. So I have a personal friend, and you don't need a personal friend. You can go out and Google. But I've cross-referenced this with him. I worked at the county back in 2012. I said, there's an awful lot of immigrants coming in with leprosy. And I asked my doctor buddy, is that normal? Should we be concerned about that? Because Iraqis were coming over, Afghanistanis. He said, it's actually pretty normal. He goes, there is an absolute cure. I can cure you of it tomorrow. And I said, really? I never knew that. He goes, absolutely. There's 3 shots they give you, a series of 3 shots, and you're 100% cured. Totally blew me away. And now I know why there's charities out there that say, give to us, because we go to India with boatloads of those 3 shots. Isn't that interesting? That's something that should be on the news across the world. I mean, really? We're going to let these people go through that when it's 3 shots? And I think the doctor told me it's like, $300, $400 for the shots. They're not even, he said, one's a carbon thing, he said, it's not like it's Cipro or the stuff the Army gives you that's thousands of dollars, not that expensive. I said, this is incredible. That disease should be off the face of the earth already. So, I can't even imagine leaving people anyway. Why does it affect the mind? I'm sure you know already. So I look like that, first of all. I'm going to be, like I said, I had worked with a guy that had some form of leprosy early in his life. He looked about half as bad as that one fella did. But now he comes to work and he functions and everything. But what do you think that does to your mind? Yeah, or to have a seriously crippling, like Chuck points out, like what he has. I'm sure you grew up with the mindset of, well, is this half of the people going to make fun of me? Are they looking at me because of this? Does my shirt fit right because I try to buy the right kind of shirt? All that. In this sillyism of American professionalism, oh, well, you shouldn't be thinking that. Yeah? How about wearing my disease for a while? And you can go ahead and tell me how it is, right? I can't even discipline my child. I can't catch him. Half my body doesn't work. Or I'm at a leper colony. I used to look beautiful. It's absolutely horrible that we let women go through that disease when God designed them for beauty. I can't even imagine it. So, all right, here's part 2. Now, I didn't read this anywhere, but I got to think. The doctors say the disease begins to eat through your flesh. God is still good. It eats the nerves first. So these fellows don't necessarily feel it. and they claim they don't feel much of it, even when their skin is open. It's a blessing not to feel it, but have you ever had a sore that's open and it starts dripping and it stains the clothes, and then comes what? The smell. I tell you that if you even had leprosy on this part of your arm, you are not going to smell very pleasant. And that will be awful for a woman especially. So there's the other mental piece. Do I smell today? I'll just stand over here. You know, I got to go to work. They're going through all of that. I think the mental damage is far more than the physical damage. So, yeah, and good point, Chuck, because we have people that don't even have leprosy, might be in a wheelchair or paralyzed, and they have to go through this nonsense thought process every day because legitimately they're wondering, how are people perceiving me? You know, and it's horrible. It's horrible. I think God will pay them back for that. I don't know why God allows that, but he does allow it. And I often tell myself, the big giant 500 people walking around on the earth who are discriminated against every single day. Forget black or white. The big giant heavy people are laughed at and scorned every day. And it's not even their fault 90% of the time. I think God has got something in store for them. Because they had to put up with that, I truly believe God is not a trickster. I truly believe that these sort of people, God has done it for a reason. And God's going to allow them to scorn him for that. How could you do this to me? God's going to look past that. Because he loves them as much as Moses. And we have the audacity in America and in Europe to, I don't mean we, the Christian camp. Matter of fact, we're the ones funding their help. Not to send $300 shots across the world. I just don't get it. We send mosquito nets. I mean, we're helpful. I'm not picking on the Christians at all. There's just so much money in the world to cure something like this. So leprosy. Most Bible scholars, most blue-collar folks like myself would agree that leprosy is kind of a picture of how sin operates. It's uncanny how the similarities between leprosy and sin. And I had a preacher tell me one time, that's what sin looks like on the outside, but it's inside. And so he had mentioned things like leprosy is invisible at first, existing only on the interior, just like sin, right? And as sin is conceived, it brings forth the damage. Leprosy is a slow decay, and it corrupts. As it builds strength, it corrupts the body over time, and so does sin. You let sin run its course, and it will begin to degrade you much like leprosy, except in the mind and maybe on the inside of the body where no one can see. Your habits change, your lifestyle changes from sin. Leprosy dulls the senses. Like I said, it kills the nerves and stuff first, so they're not feeling their fingers. The fingers actually get withdrawn into the body, is what they say. They're not feeling the open wounds. Thank God they're not. But sin is the same way. It dulls our senses. I'm only drinking 6 beers now. I used to drink 2. And I know, because I went through it. I only use bad language half the day, but no one's counting anyway. There's me. I didn't start off with bad language as this pretty girl here. I didn't start off that way. And God did not design me that way. God doesn't, because I'm an adult, I can smoke and talk bad and act bad. No, it's supposed to be the opposite. I'm supposed to get better and better and better. Foolish adults, myself, starting with myself. And sin does that. Sin dulls the senses. You know, I only told her to drop dead. What is she worried about? That's me, because I'm still learning to control my mouth, right? Words are powerful, and they do hurt. And wars are started by words. This person that made up Sticks and Stones Can't Hurt Me, I didn't buy it when I was a kid, and I don't buy it now. Words will kill you. Sticks and stones, you can recover from that. Words permanently damage people. You go outside and call somebody, hey, what happened to your legs? He's a short guy, man. I know it's funny. It's a joke. But when it hits that guy, and he's heard that joke 1,400 times, it has impact. And believe me, that guy is thinking of scenarios involving you and him. We're calling him that. You know, the little people of the world, the adults, think about them, what they must think on a daily basis. I worked with a fella at Intel, and we had to wear a bunny suit quite a bit in the clean rooms, the white suits. Doll, we look like ghosts. We have these. Your dad can show you later online what these clean room suits look like. And you got to get in them, and you look like the ghost walking around. It covers everything because it's just how computer chips are made. And a little guy, there was a little guy who would dress up, he's old as me. And what's the first thing that went through everyone's mind, myself included? Hey, it's Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory. Because we all look like, and there was him. But he had muscles like this. And I often wonder, I know why that guy's got muscles like that. And he looked like Schwarzenegger's small version. He was catching up to him. I know exactly why he had muscle like that. And I wouldn't dare. And I actually had to tell myself, don't smile at that. That's a horrible thought. I had to tell myself, hey, that's wicked, man. I didn't think about that, you know. But that's sin. You got to get a grip on it or it will take over. It will take over. Leprosy eventually takes total control of the body and its activities. It also blinds you pretty quick, as we saw with that one lady. It blinds you pretty fast. It cripples you, and so does sin. Leprosy was once incurable and still is incurable for all these people that can't get their hands on $300 or $400. Totally incurable. Once you get those shots, the next day you're cleansed. You can't even pass the disease on to somebody. You would think an open wound would. Even if you're susceptible, the doctors claim no. Those chemicals hit so hard that even the fluid, which now is not contagious. But the damage can never be reversed. You're always going to look like that. How horrible. For about $500, we can just prevent the whole thing, you know. A lot of us were involved at one time. We still are occasionally with the Smile Train. Their only ministry is to repair cleft palates on kids, because in the third world they're often thrown off a cliff, mothers and fathers love them, don't get me wrong, but society just dismisses them. They're never going to go nowhere. He has infectious diseases because his mouth was born open and they don't have the money. It's about $2,000 to fix it. So there's a marvelous ministry called the Smile Train. And you can donate a portion of your taxes or $10 a week or something, and that's all they do. It's doctors that run it. So they go around the world, they fix little kids, and by the time they're 12, 13, they're fine. Their speech is back. So if you don't have anywhere to send your money, if we're making too much money here, you know, the church don't always need all that money. Find a good ministry like that. There's ministries that buy slaves around the world. They literally go to the dictator, we want to purchase all these people, and they purchase them. And the government works with that group to get them visas, but they purchase them. Yeah, and they're not even Christians. A lot of these folks are Islam, but a lot of them convert. They think, why would this silly white man pay $10,000 and purchase my whole village? And he's not even Islamic. There's got to be something about that guy. And they know who Jesus is. Jesus is very precious to the Islamic. He's just a sin bearer, not the Son of God. He's not the Savior, but, well, he's a Savior to them, but they have a skewed picture. There's no salvation there whatsoever. But the minute you mention Jesus, we're okay with Jesus. We know he's a sin bearer, but he's not as great as Muhammad. That's what they'll tell you. So at least you have a link to start a discussion, you know, it's for whatever it is. I mean, but get involved in something that counts. God will count that. All right. Although the disease is curable, the damage that was done is still there. In our passage, Jesus reaches forth, heals him, but he touches him. He physically touches him. And that was revolutionary during that time. That's revolutionary now. People were not supposed to touch a leper because of safety. I couldn't find anywhere in the law that dictated you couldn't touch a leper. I saw where you can't touch a dead body. You can't touch a woman once a month. She can't come to church once a month. Let's put it that way. But I couldn't find nothing. So I'm open for correction on that. I looked Leviticus 12, Leviticus 13, Leviticus 14, could not find it. But in the old world, it probably is prudent. Don't touch that person. Because that 5% that got leprosy, a good portion of them probably lived in those areas. So maybe it was warranted. What does Jesus do? Touches them. And we know it's not against the law because he did that. Had he done that and that's against the law, he's a sinner. So I don't have to know much to know he did touch him. So anyway, I definitely need corrected on that if you find it somewhere. In our patch, so we'll go on through. Let's read through one more time. When he was come down off the mountain, great multitudes followed him. And behold, there came a leper and worshipped him. Oh, there's a key word. The leper worshipped him, saying, Lord. There's another key word. He's not God. He's not, it seems to be this fellow's Lord. Lord, if thou wilt, thou can make me clean. He knows Jesus can do it. He knows it. He must have heard what he's been doing around town. Maybe Jesus had visited there. We don't have everything recorded in the Bible, but he knows Jesus can do it if he wants to. So, if you will, you can make me clean. And Jesus put forth his hand and touched him, saying, I do will that thou is clean. And immediately, there's the word I was looking for, immediately his leprosy was cleansed. Immediately it was cleansed. And Jesus says, go see the priest and have the priest verify that you're clean. I'm going out on a limb, but I want to say immediately it was cleansed. I want to say Jesus removed some of that damage. I'm not saying Jesus totally remade his skin, although he could. He could. He healed a guy's hand in the synagogue one time. But immediately seems to suggest to me that at least the open wounds and much of the stuff that the priest would have disqualified him on, because the priest has to check, does he have any white hairs? Leprosy. It's part of a symptom of leprosy. Are there white skin? And we saw some of that in the pictures. White skin where that hair's coming out. There kind of needs to be a hair coming out of that area to test it, because they know it's deeper. Leprosy, all right? Well, yeah, you know, we got him all medicined up, you know. And they would check the white patches. Is there any heat in the Hebrew, red skin, yellow skin around those patches? No? Okay, that's a good sign. No white hair, no red skin, no yellow skin. Then the priest would make you go for camp. What do they call that? We did in COVID days. In seclusion for 7 days, and then they would come back out and you would check them again. Okay, no progression in the disease. Go back another 7 days. And they did this for a series of 7 days at a time. And eventually, the priest would deem him cleansed. You can go out among society. Although you look hideous, you're cleansed. So for Jesus to say, in my mind, immediately the leprosy was cleansed, suggests to me that he at least closed up all of those areas that the priest would have discounted him on. I'm just trying to reason why he used the terms that he did. Because he shouldn't have said cleansed. He could have said cured. And he quite possibly could have meant that with the term cleansed as well. But at any rate, Jesus was pretty sure that priest was going to deem him cleansed. Because he says, go to the priest, tell no man, but go thy way and show thyself to the priest. And give Moses the gift that's offered. Why would you give a gift if you weren't cured? Okay? Now, there's a lot of controversy around don't tell no man. And all the people I've heard explain that, they're all right. I mean, I've heard them say it in other parts of the New Testament. Oh, you see me throw this demon out. Don't tell anybody. Go back to your village. And there's reasons why Jesus does that. But I think one of the reasons here is if he would have told somebody on the way to that priest, they would have set their clock. Okay, then we don't expect to see that man in the neighborhood for about 6 months because he's got to go through a series of 7-day tests. And I'm wondering if Jesus just wanted to skip that whole thing. Go show the priest, bring a gift because he's going to deem you cured. You would never bring the gift until the curing is done. Okay, so in my mind, he's implying Jesus did some kind of a miracle. Bang. And the people probably saw it. And he went to the priest. So you can restudy that if you will. I don't think I'm wrong, but I think there's room for other explanations as well. So also notice, let's see. So Leviticus, if you go to chapter 13 and 14, and you don't have to go there now, but that's the leprosy testing process there. And there's it's echoed in other chapters of the Bible, but that is the law given to Moses pertaining to leprosy, 13 and 14. And the priests would inspect and certify the person. In the case of Jesus cleansing a leper, okay, we talked about that, it was immediately gone. And then at some point, the priest is to go outside the camp. So maybe that's where what's the word I'm missing? Sequester? Yeah, chapter 13 and 14, leprosy. I'm pretty sure, unless I gave you the wrong number. That's it? Okay. And at some point, the priest is ordered now to move that patient outside the camp, and he'll go out there to visit him. Well, the priests are pretty busy. I'm sure 7 days turned into 20 days, turned into 21. What did they do to people in COVID? What is that word I'm missing? Quarantine. They quarantined them. And so maybe Jesus was trying to cut some time off that. You don't need to quarantine this fella. There's no white hair on his head. There should have been. He had leprosy. So Jesus cured that. All of his hair went dark again. So I'm guessing he immediately cleared this fella. And with that comes the immediate restoration to God and a future of a new body. No permanent. So this guy's cured. If you look at sin, Jesus does the same thing. Bang, you're cured. The sin's gone. But I talk to people every day at work. They're still doing 5 to 10 years. Well, I'm a Christian now. But when I shot that fella, I wasn't a Christian. And the judge sentenced me to 10 years. And I'm halfway through my sentence right now. And you know what they say? I deserve it. I shot the guy. He's wounded, maimed. But I would never have done that as a Christian. But he's saved, right? But the penalty's still there, the damage, just like the leper. The damage is still there, but they are cured. And I think the leper, once they get those 3 shots, or God heals them, I think a lot of that depression leaves. They're no longer, they probably don't have mirrors in their house because they don't want to look at themselves. But just knowing that that disease is gone, I don't know if it passes on to the next generation, but yeah. So sin the same way. God heals it instantly. With us, it takes a little time to regrow. I was 30. I'm childlike in my thinking, anger issues, all of that. And God slowly began to show me. By the way, I didn't attend church for the first 4.5 years. I didn't trust the church because of what I saw of in my early day of people going to the Catholic Empire. I thought, surely God's not here. He's not here. So I didn't trust the churches. And eventually, I learned enough of the Bible and said, no, you need to find some like-minded believers. And actually, my wife pressed me on that. I said, okay, let's go do that. So, yeah, but a lot of the damage that I had, a developing drug habit, a drinking habit developing, almost there, a lot of control issues for me, temper issues, not expressed outwardly, but inwardly, dismissing this person as a half person, dismissing that person as expendable. Did I do mean things to them? No. I just literally walked through my day. Even if I was smiling and we did business, hi, thank you for buying all these eggs, whatever. And in my mind, I thought, whatever. And it was just there. It was just there, implanted as a young. the men that I ran with when I was young, you know. Survival of the fittest was often talked about, and so was Machiavelli, and so was a lot of this other nonsense, and I cemented that in. And I thought, well, their death is their death. They can go to wherever they're going. And my death is my death. I'm pretty sure I'm okay with God. I would go through the balance stuff in my head, you know. I think I knew. And then by the time I was 19, I was pretty sure I was going to hell. There was not going to be any way around it. You know, what a way to think. But that was me, and that was sin. Once someone told me the gospel, I was very embarrassed at that point because I was the bad guy all the way around. I thought, how could you even save me? What would even give you the idea that I would even listen to you? And so I had to slowly read through the Bible, and it took a few years to regrow Michael's mind. So, but I do see it now that that it does act like leprosy. Sin absolutely acts like leprosy. I'm just we'll hold on. The next miracle is the centurion. And it's going to be a very close miracle to what he did here, what Jesus did here. But Jesus is at work. He's done giving the speech. He gave his grand speech, and now he's back at work. And if the master does that, we should be doing it. I'm not saying we're going to heal people, but maybe we can wrap some new bandages and buy a lunch or something. But we should be at work too. Well, all the years I was at the old folks' home, and now Kevin does the same thing, but at the dump. I can't tell you how many times people threw up on me, slobbered on me, bled on me, they stunk, and we still preached. And you work in an environment like that. And you just get it out of your mind. God wants them saved too. And at the assisted living center, that's what you do, you know, and eventually you don't even know what's around you, you know. And Jesus the same way. I'm sure when he touched that guy, he didn't wash his, by the way, no, there was no hand soap dispenser. But what struck me during COVID was I was brought up in a house that you try to respect someone to their face. So when I would see people doing that right in front of me after we shook hands, it was very insulting to me. Now, it was silly because I would tell myself, no, they're getting the COVID off their hands. But I couldn't shake that. Doing that, I thought, huh. You know, and maybe it was like that in this day. I'm sure if Jesus would have been like, you're healed, went over here and washed his hands, started doing his stuff, that guy would have thought, oh yeah, well, I believe I'm healed, but you know, you touched me, you got to wash your hands. Am I a swine or, you know? Yeah. And that was part of my own growth, you know, thinking, no, people aren't insulting you. They're trying to stay healthy. They just shook your hand. You may have COVID, you know? Yeah. Broad, yeah. I mean, because in me, even at Valley Baptist, I was there at the time, when we started cleansing everything, and that was fine, but what struck me first is when we passed around the tray. I saw the ladies popping out their hand cleanser. You want some? You want some? And to me, in my mind, and it wasn't true, I thought, how insulting, man. I mean, you just washed off my germs or what? And I thought, yeah, she did, because I probably had COVID. You know? So, but it just struck me that way, you know. It really, and it's silly, but it did. You know. But that's all I had for the study. Questions, feedback, pushback.
I got a good example for you. My father was in charge of maintenance and utilities in Death Valley.
Uh-huh.
And during flu season, he had all his custodians spray the doorknobs, disinfectant. And flu out there dropped dramatically.
I'll bet.
Yep.
Yeah.
See, every time you went through the door with the custodian, he sprayed the doorknob.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the amount of flu like they would normally have.
And who would have thought doorknobs? I wonder how far into the flu season he thought of that, you know? Yeah, you're right. They're living creatures. So.
But if you ever want to do a really good study, take that invisible ink that shows up with black light,
Mm-hmm.
put it on just your fingertips, just spend a day in your house, and then at night, turn off all the light,
Ah.
and go through with that black light, just see where all that stuff pops
No
up.
kidding.
Try it.
No kidding. Yeah.
Everything is like
Yeah.
your glasses, you set your glasses down, kitchen table, sink, refrigerator,
That's interesting.
bathroom sink, toilet, shower curtain.
That is,
Everywhere, wow, I touched all that.
that's interesting. And I think they said that virus lives on the surface for a long time, huh?
3 days.
Yeah.
And they were saying one time that during the news during COVID, that they were expecting so many thousands of cases of flu,
Uh-huh.
and it didn't happen. It was
Yeah.
so,
You're right. In the,
everybody was taking precautions. Flu did not happen.
yeah, and I know all the normal sicknesses that I get every year, I didn't get them because we had a mask on. And now I'll probably get them with a vengeance, but yeah, I didn't get them, so,
I had a good friend of mine, he worked in the sewer plant back in Park,
yeah,
and he would never get sick.
yeah,
His wife would catch every bug that her kids brought home.
yeah,
Daycare.
yeah.
She was always sick.
I mean,
Tom didn't get sick at all.
I still got COVID a couple of times. I think it's because of what was Kevin was saying. You don't know where it's at. I thought, well, the masks don't work. I'm not going to bother with it. But that's probably what it was.
So you wear a mask, do the same thing with the ink print.
Yeah.
Where your ink prints in on your mask.
Yeah, you rub your nose,
Yeah.